Welcome to a quick look at the brand new 2019 Kia Forte. Now, I was a part of a select group that were invited to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for Kia's national product launch, where they have journalists and edgy YouTubers come to take a look at the vehicle. In that time, you get flown in, you go to a hotel, they feed you, you get to meet other like-minded individuals and some not so like-minded. And one of the best parts about events like this is you get to talk to some of the brand representatives, the people in charge of PR marketing. They have a lot of technical information available, and you get to meet other people that do things like me, like Donut Media, Exhaust Sports Auto, Mr. Regular from Regular Car Reviews, which I did my co-drive with. And you get to bounce ideas off other people, so it's not just singular-minded. So in this video, I'm not going to go through an exhaustive review, that will come later, but I'm going to talk about my initial impressions of this car with the short amount of time that I had with it, and why you should look at it, and maybe why you wouldn't look at it. When I got to the hotel, I realized that Kia had provided us some games to play in the hospitality room, one of which was skee ball. I quickly entered myself into a tournament of champions with two young gentlemen. They dominated me, I felt like a disgrace, and then I realized the guy that kept hitting hundreds back to back was also a Kia Stinger owner. This seemed pretty rigged right away. I went back to my hotel room and started to snuggle. The next morning, I stuffed my face and prepared for a presentation which was larger than life, for real, where Kia talked about why the Forte was so important to them. That small cars still matter, that compact cars were a gateway to bigger things with the brand. Because not everybody can just be young and afford a high-end car. You need to start somewhere, and this somewhere was the new Forte. Now, during PR and marketing presentations, they like to throw a lot at you, and some of it doesn't align with reality. Like their commercial with the Forte versus the Lamborghini Aventador, how they say the Forte is more practical than that car, and of course it's a joke. But then they go into the whole Kia Stinger thing. They say, we're so proud of the Kia Stinger, look what we did. Now we want to draw inspiration from the Stinger into the Forte, which I just don't see. This is not, the car's not a Stinger. The only thing it really shares is maybe the grille design and the badge. That's about it. Now you might draw more inspiration there, but I'm just gonna say, this is a global car. It's a global compact car. It's shared with cars like the Ceed and the Hyundai Elantra. It's still a great architecture. Now what Kia's done, they've tried to inject a little bit of style without going off the deep end. When you look at the exterior, the bumpers, the headlights, the grille design, the body panels, this looks like a car that even when you're not spending a lot of money, you don't feel like you're buying a total turd. You don't feel embarrassed to drive it, and I said that about the Kia Rio, and that's one of the strongest suits of that car, which is even cheaper. The Forte carries a lot of that over. The biggest thing and the biggest selling point that I'm going to tell you if you're looking for basic transportation, at 17 grand, which is the base model, you get a manual transmission and a port injected only motor, no direct injection. And there's no direct injection on any of the models. And when you step up to the other models, you start to get into Kia's new CVT, which I'll get into in a minute. But when you look at the interior space of this car, again, it's another thing that Kia does extremely well, and I think they're really good at it at the lower price point. This is some of the best interior design, fit and finish, features, like you get cooled seats in here that you don't even get in a lot of luxury cars you gotta pay extra for. Once you get in the higher trim levels, the interior space, you can break it up with two-tone materials. The steering wheel design's good. The infotainment is excellent. It's quick. It rewinds satellite radio. There's literally no lag. There's still physical buttons and controls for everything, including the heating and air conditioning. You can use the HVAC controls completely separate from the touchscreen. And that's one of the best parts about this car as well in terms of simplicity of design. I really like the exterior and interior here for the price range, and this is something they're continuing to do really well, and that's why the sales numbers are going up when you look at it. And after the presentation, they break you up into groups. I paired up with Brian from Regular Car Reviews. We hopped into a Forte EX, which is pretty much the top trim level at $22,000. You get heated and cooled seats, the better infotainment, the nicer interior, lane departure assist and warning, all the safety suites. And you know, it's pretty much the sweet spot if you want all the features. They do have a higher trim level with the launch edition, which is 25 grand, but that's a lot of fluff. Black wheels, a spoiler, a moonroof. You just have to decide. We got onto the road. They gave you pre-printed instructions on where to go. And of course, I boofed that up and got us lost. And Brian explained the traffic flow in Pittsburgh to me.
You like tunnels?
Yeah, I like tunnels. Tunnel traffic sucks, but which is a Pittsburgh thing. Traffic, even though the road doesn't slow at all, in Pittsburgh, tunnel traffic is where everything's fine, but oh no, a tunnel, everybody slow down.
After that, I realized he was enamored with the lane departure feature where it keeps you in between the painted lines on the highway. And it works extremely well in Hyundais and Kias, and you can see it, it's trickled down from the Genesis brand, and it's one of the best pieces of software here because it works without being totally annoying, and it's just assistive enough on the highway where you have confidence in it and you know that it's gonna work. But you can turn it off easily just with a one-touch button on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. Now, driving this along, the first thing you're gonna notice from the Kia brand is they always tune their vehicles a little bit more firm. It's more firmly sprung, the steering is a little bit more direct, and it just has this more kind of like engaging feel to the driving experience, namely when you compare it to the Hyundai Elantra. Now, all the Fortes have a torsion beam rear end, which means it doesn't have independent rear suspension. Now, on almost all road surfaces, you don't notice it. There's a ton of body adhesives in this car. It's a really sound and structural experience, so you don't get a lot of jittering that you normally get. But over extremely bad pavement, you're gonna notice that back end is a lot more like jittery, and it's just by design. Now, when you're driving, it's still extremely comfortable, it's extremely isolated, and there's a ton of front passenger room, and that's one of the best parts about this architecture. Now, one of the big questions is, Kia has gone to a CVT. And they talk about the CVT, they talk about it, and one of the big things in their presentation is, you have to try it, it's not gonna feel like a CVT, and that's why they designed it the way they did. Check out the acceleration.
Mash.
Now, I gotta say, this is probably the best CVT I've ever been in that emulates a torque-converted 6-speed gear-based transmission, automatic transmission. Even in between shifts, there's a slight pause or hesitation or a jerk to make it feel more like it has gear sets in it. Now, it will emulate 8 gears, and I found that, even like if you're in 3rd gear and you rev it out, it's like crazy high speeds. It's not truly like an automatic transmission, but I guarantee you 95% of drivers will never notice it is. That's how well it's programmed. Now, I talked to one of the Kia representatives about it. Why would you spend all this time in development trying to make it feel like an automatic transmission when it's a CVT? And the short answer was, people complain about CVTs and the press complain about CVTs, so they had to make it feel like a regular transmission so people wouldn't complain. Now, CVTs, by default, if they're well designed, will have less drivetrain loss. They're more compact and they can be lighter, and that's the case. And you're taking up less space, you're making it lighter, you're making it more efficient, you should have better fuel economy. And this car, on the highway, we got about 41 miles to the gallon. If you pound it around, you're gonna get into the low, middle, 30 mile per gallon range, which is really impressive, namely on a motor that doesn't have direct injection. I think it works extremely well. I'm impressed with it, but then again, you have a base model with a manual trans if you want to stay away from that. Now, because this is a new CVT, I'm going to be totally honest with you, I can't say what the reliability is, or if they're going to stick with it. Hyundai and Kia are notorious for trying new things. They have a 6-speed automatic, they have a 6-speed manual, they have a dual clutch, which hasn't been particularly well received. And I don't know which one they're going to stick with, but if this thing is reliable, I think a lot of people are going to have no issue with it. Now, I didn't have this car for more than like 40 minutes driving it, so I can't give you true great impressions, which I'm going to do in a full review, but I hope this gives you a little bit of insight of what the car was like overall on this short stint and journey to Pittsburgh, PA. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Damn it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, can you get on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about the dessert cart
This is like a solid 8.9.
8.9. They had some chocolate cake out here earlier, though.
They did.
I'm missing
Where?
that now.
Oh,
For
the
lunch.
brownie cake or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
Yo,
I am
you had the
missing that.
cake, how was it?
The cake had fruit in it and chocolate. I wanted to taste it with my mouth and my out mouth.